we had Gilbert Gottfried come into the Metaverse, and it was his second last show before he passed away. So it's bittersweet to be able to work with him again that way. But hey, that's a cool comic, like a legend to be part of it. I follow some of these projects on Telegram and stuff, and the demand of the people that are holders, whether they hold can $10 worth of the token or 10 million, the way that they demand the people who are running that project to be in constant communication, and
Crazy.
it's very, very titty sucky. uh,
It's Johnny Late Night! And now here's your host, Johnny Rogers!
Welcome back, everyone, to episode number 81 of the Johnny Rogers Show. First, before I get into our guest today, I'm very excited about the guest that we have on today. You have to go to patreon.com/the Johnny Rogers, because that's the only way that you'll get these episodes ad-free and exclusive and before anyone else for the low price of $2 a month. But my guest today is one of the fastest rising comedians in North America with his hilarious brand of working class comedy. After winning the Dark Comedy Festival in Toronto, he has headlined comedy clubs across Canada, appearing as part of Andrew Schulz's Matador Tour, Doug Stanhope's Second Wind Tour, Your Hood's a Joke roast battle at the Comedy Store in Los Angeles, big deal, and Toronto's annual Massey Hall New Year's Eve extravaganza, even bigger deal. When he's not busy, though, touring as a stand-up, he co-hosts the popular podcast Fight Stories with comedian John Moses. Plus, he has a special out on YouTube right now called Too Soon. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for my friend and yours, Tyler Morrison.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I was almost going to read your full bio, but I was like, we'll be here all night.
Yeah, there's a few. I've been doing it a while, so
yeah, the credits just start to rack up like a Bible at that point. Like, we're gonna need a table of contents.
Yeah. I think for the first 10 years of my career, I was skating by on Boston Comedy Festival, and then started to stack up a couple.
Yeah, we always have to latch on to those early. Forever, I was saying that I opened for Kenny versus Spenny.
Yeah,
it was a terrible show too, but I was like, I did it. That's a credit.
it's
right?
always good. It's always good when you have that one thing where they, the people that don't really know, like not super comedy fans, just the casual comedy fan. If they're like, "Oh, this guy must be good," you kind of have to have that
Yeah. It's a
relatable
stamp of
thing.
approval almost.
And you got to pay attention because sometimes those credits start to become irrelevant out.
yeah.
Like I think I had Byte TV was a credit for a while, and
Yeah.
like Byte TV hasn't been
He appeared
around.
on
And
video on trial. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of guys still skating by on video on trial.
all you need
That's
is a little MTV logo on everything, and then you're good.
yeah,
Encompasses
exactly.
everything. You're like, was it Guy Code? What was it that this guy did?
Yeah, you need a legacy credit.
Yeah. So the thing that intrigues me the most about you as a comedian is that you are not in like a central location, that comedians would say you would need to be in. And yet you have found a way to still succeed. Do you attribute that to just your passion for comedy and just wanting to make it happen no matter what? What was kind of like the idea behind staying where you're at versus like, going to a major comedy spot?
Yeah, I think definitely the will to succeed was huge, but also if I was in a major city in like a comedy scene or whatever, I'd be much more hated.
Yeah.
No, I think like I
You're
just
like, come
really,
and get me.
yeah, exactly. No, I like being outside of the city and then being able to come and do what I want whenever I want, and then I come back to a nice, quiet, peaceful existence. I'm up in Muskoka with I got my family and got a nice little podcast studio out here. I can just do stuff online, and then you know on the weekends jump in the car and go wherever.
Yeah,
So
that's the
it's
beauty of like the internet, really, of just being able to do it from anywhere, in that sense of like you're still, because the whole point of like going out to as many shows as you could was just like awareness, like, hey, I'm here, I'm doing stuff, like
yeah,
Just
And you
that's
have to
an
keep
easy
that
way to
up.
get booked.
You do have to keep it up, and it was just it happened at a certain stage for me where I probably got out of the city too early when I first moved back up here. So I did have to use the internet to bridge the gap and kind of get people to see, what my writing skill and
Yeah.
just be funny every day so that, you're on the radar. And that definitely bridged the gap for me in terms of that. But then, I have a comedy festival, Cottage Country Comedy Festival, that for 15 years we were doing that up here, and we haven't done it since the pandemic, but we're still producing shows and looking at what the future is for that. But that definitely got me in front of a lot of comedians that I necessarily wouldn't have um, been in front of otherwise. So I got to meet a lot of good comics and make some good connections that way too.
Yeah.
Just from producing as well. So
Yeah, I mean, like you could get booked just off of your Facebook posts alone. You know what I mean? Like whenever
I
I
think I've
want to
lost a
see
few
what's
gigs because of them
happening.
too.
Yeah. Well,
Lost
it
a
goes
few
both ways.
few friends when Kobe Bryant died.
Oh no. Yeah, I'm sure you and Ari Shaffir are kindred spirits in that way.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't go as hard as
He went pretty hard. He went too, didn't he? Wasn't he like in North Carolina and he went to like the old stadium that he used to play at
yeah.
or something crazy?
He went all in.
I feel like comedy needs. I mean, obviously, if you're on the outside world of comedy, you don't really. You might just see it and be offended by it. Although I do think sometimes there are often comedians that are getting offended at jokes more so
Oh
than
yeah,
regular
the
people.
pussies, the
Yeah,
pussy
yeah, yeah.
comics. Yeah.
Is that what you call them? Yeah, that's what they're.
I mean, that's what they should be called. There's a
Yeah,
lot of little crybabies, but you know what? Most of them don't get online and bellyache about it. They cry in the back of the room to their friends, and
yeah.
it's
It's the
just
whispers.
they deserve to be. That's where they deserve to be.
Yeah,
You keep them in the dark. If they're brazen enough to step out and come at you for jokes, then they're gonna. Those people usually have the most to hide, and I think we've
yeah.
seen that in Canadian comedy a couple times.
And Cosby, just you know what I mean? Like he was classically one of the people that was telling people to be cleaner and was
Yeah,
leading the darkest life you've ever heard of.
it's crazy to think with Bill Cosby how like he's on one hand like he accomplished so much um and was so influential, and then he did like one thing that like probably one of the hardest things ever. He got a conviction overturned. uh
Fucking nuts, dude.
yeah.
Nuts. Like the craziest thing about that too is just like it's like when the news puts out something that's like completely false and then like a week later in like a tiny section in the fourth page it's like a retraction that nobody
Mm-hmm.
sees. It's almost
Mm-hmm.
like what happened with I'm sure he'll still have his fans who believe he never did it, but let's say he never did it and he went through all this public shaming and conviction and then got let off because let's say he actually didn't do it. It's still your reputation is destroyed at that point. Like very
Yeah,
few
the
people
accusations the
sticks.
accusations stick harder than the
Mm-hmm.
retraction every time. But I mean, and I mean the Cosby thing, it's pretty overwhelming. Like it was a technicality.
The technicality is crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. And that, like, I remember, like, because Bill Cosby was one of my heroes growing up. I love Bill Cosby, even though my comedy isn't clean, per se. I can do clean shows, but it's not my favorite. It's not my
Mm.
bread and butter, really. But Bill Cosby as a kid, like, I loved Bill Cosby. I remember when his son was murdered. Like it was when I was a kid, and I remember like crying for Bill Cosby, like because I felt so bad for him. It was so sad. And then Bill Cosby obviously gets hit with all these rape charges, and it's like, man, Ennis was fucking lucky to clock out when he did, dude. The Big E pulled the shoot right at the
Yeah.
right time. Well, someone pulled it for him, but
Oh, fuck.
could you imagine like being Bill
Uh,
Cosby's son? How embarrassing that would be
you
after all
can't go
this.
anywhere. Like I'm trying to think of like an equivalent, like maybe I bet Nick Carter could have even, you know what I mean? Because Nick Carter had his little brother Aaron, who was just a
Hmm.
mess towards the end. And he is leading what seems to be like a pretty, straight and narrow life for a boy band member as best you can. I don't know what the hell he's doing, but uh,
Nick, didn't he get charged with rape too?
recently,
But
recently,
did he beat
but
it?
he beat her. No, I'm just kidding. He, I have no idea. I think it was like one of those things where somebody else was talking about this, where it's like he's been in this world for so long that he's not used to people telling him no. Not saying that's okay, but understanding that mentality, you're like, we got to come up with a different judicial system for these guys. Like maybe they need like more so mental health treatment, because it's like you can't just grab women by the pussies, dude. You gotta ask, still charge them and whatever, but there needs to be, I think, additional shit added on for these guys.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened with Nick. What it was an accusation. I don't know if did he actually
I
get
think it was like a
charged?
years ago accusation. I don't know if he actually got charged, but it was something at like a house party or whatever. He just took the girl upstairs and like made her blow him or something.
Imagine they call her nickname was Backstreet, and then Backstreet's back all after
Everybody
all
goes,
these
all
years.
right. Yeah, her name is really Backstreet. They bring out a new tour just to cover up the news.
Yeah.
But I really also want to talk to you about like the future of comedy when it comes to what you're doing with is it Decentraland?
Yeah, so Decentral Comedy is
Decentral Comedy.
the company, and we stream comedy into the metaverse. So we've done a lot of our stuff in Decentraland is where we kind of started it out with. It's kind of been our home for all of our streaming and all that. There's so many things happening in the space. It's amazing. And that happened to be the first one where we landed, and I like the uncensored nature of how that works. There's different metaverses, and they all kind of have a different utility or different strength and they all have their weaknesses, because we are in the infancy of this kind
Yeah.
of tech shift, and where everything's kind of headed is towards this stuff. And you know the Decentraland is built on blockchain, and it runs on a token called mana, so people can use mana to they mint wearables and all these different things, and they buy digital real estate and all that. And I mean, I never got into buying the real estate or anything, but we found out about this during the pandemic, when we were locked down in Canada and we couldn't do any shows, and it was just doing the old Zoom stand up show just wasn't it was get doing stand up on Zoom just never felt right.
No.
So what we realized that in America it was open down there. They were doing shows again. So we're like, well, what if we, produced a show? We're in Canada, but we can produce a show from New York and stream it into Decentraland and see what happens, right? Because we found out about this metaverse, and we were able to pull it together probably within like 40 days. I think we put it all together and
Wow.
pulled the show off. We had Mark Normand and Ryan Long, Katie Boyle, Dave Temple, and Rob Mayhew was hosting it. And Rob Mayhew produced a lot of shows with Rob, and he was our boots on the ground in New York when we did it. So it worked out. We had about 300 people attend the show, which was, I mean, it's pretty cool. That like that's in the metaverse, not just there's live people in the
Yeah,
live show
yeah.
too. And so we streamed it in, and we're like, okay, there is an interest in this, and it's kind of cool. The virtual hangout part of it, I think, is it's different than just being on a chat room. It's you get to create your avatars like being in a video
Yeah.
game. There is that that vibe to it. It's Decentraland isn't VR yet, and that's I hope that's coming. They say that it's coming because I do think VR is where the casual
That's going to take it to the next
fan
level
interest
for
is.
casual fan interest.
Yeah, the first thing they think
Yeah.
of is it VR, and Decentraland isn't yet. So that's where I'm hoping that that's heading. I mean, uh, as it stands, though, there is lots of it's great for streaming content in, and I kind of view it as, if you put your podcast out for free on YouTube or any of the other streaming platforms, why wouldn't you stream it into the metaverse too? Because there's,
Yeah.
an opportunity to build a new following there, and just kind of integrate yourself into the tech and where it is
Yeah.
going. If you understand it early, you'll understand it better as it evolves. You don't want to be left behind.
That's my thought process with like Chat GPT and all of these AIs that are coming up. I'm like,
Yes.
this is like when Google came out. Like you need
Yes.
to figure out how you can utilize this. And if you look at what businesses did with like Google in terms of getting on top of what SEO meant and realize Russell Peters, his brother, is a good example of someone who was able to fix the website in such a way that if you Googled like comedy, it was his website that came up.
That's
Like
slick.
there's ways of like, getting in and figuring this stuff out. But aside from like trying to game the system or anything like that, I think what you're doing is just brilliant in so many ways, because when you look at what does everyone want? Everyone wants like experiences. Like
Mm-hmm.
we all want an experience. We want to go on a vacation. We want to go to a show. We want to experience stuff, but those are things that are becoming like increasingly more expensive, and people just can't afford to do those things.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a place where there's like, let's say Comedy Mothership, for example, Joe Rogan puts a 360 virtual VR camera in one spot of the room, or three spots, whatever you want. And now I can pay $5 and I can virtually sit in that room and watch the same show with people around me, like live audience members. Then it's game over, because comedians are in such control at that point. You could sell out the room, make the money off the room, and then sell however many people are watching it virtually too.
Yeah, and that's sort of where it's headed, and we'll see, because it's still, like, again, it is in the early stages of that. I haven't seen it mastered yet, but all the elements are there for that to kind of come together, and it is about that extra experience, and like you said, the thing that I was, when you mentioned the price and stuff, it costs a lot of money to do these things. Like, there's some people in the world that would never ever get a chance to go and see a comedy show in New York City. So
Yeah.
you know what? We can broadcast a live show from New York City into Decentraland, and you can be in there and hang out with your friends, and you can watch it, and you could have a friend from across the world, in a different country, and meet up together and watch the show and chat and stuff like that. So it is. Kind of like the way that the internet bridged the gap for me being out of the city. It's a way that we can kind of bridge the gap, I guess, between these experiences, and merge what's happening in real life with a digital platform in a way that is, I think, because I'm a comic, I understand the way that people are going to want to experience it as best I can. I
Mm-hmm.
try and look at it from all angles. How are the comics going to like it? How are the fans going to like it? And we, always striving to figure out little ways to improve things. It's definitely, nothing is perfect
Yeah.
yet, but I kind of like being on the ground level of it to help guide
And
where it's
facilitate,
going. A lot
like,
of these
yeah.
brilliant tech minds have gravitated to us, and we've had the opportunity with our team to work with them, and they're using it as a case study in Decentraland to how to create or they use it to make the streaming better. We were the
Yeah.
people that were they were testing the streaming, because streaming into the metaverse isn't the same as streaming into certain
Mm.
other places. There's different I guess specifications that they need to use. make it
So,
run smoothly, right?
walk me through how this goes from just an idea to when you actually executed it, and what was the first show kind of like?
Yeah, so the first show was just like I said, there was a few of us, so there's a few of us all kind of jamming on it, and we're just like, oh, this is kind of cool. Let's figure this out. Then we talked to some people in Decentraland. There's a guy who had a venue that he let us use,
Oh, cool.
and we could pay him to stream in. And so like, okay, it was pretty like set up shop quickly for us with that one.
Wow.
And then I had the connection with Brooklyn Comedy Club, so we were able to set up Brooklyn Comedy Club. Mayhew was down in New York, so he knew the comics, and I know, uh, Ryan Long and that, but we were able to pull it together pretty quick. Uh, Great lineup, and it's on the tail end of the pandemic, so comics are just kind of getting back out there. I mean, and getting Mark Norman to do a show in New York City, he's a pretty big comic, but he's there. You can get those type of comics rolling
Yeah.
through a comedy club.
And if
so
anyone will do it, it's Mark, because I've heard of him
cool.
hustling some crazy shows. Like,
Oh yeah, Mark's wild. Yeah.
because I've heard stories on podcasts from other comedians where they're like, yeah, so and so was like, do you want to do this show at a pizza shop? Mark Norman did it last week, and he's like, what? Like, no, I don't want to go all the way to Brooklyn to do your pizza shop show. Like,
yeah, he's a weapon. He just wants to do comedy, right?
Yeah, but I love that. Yeah, you need people like that in the scene who are just like complete hustlers with it, because you're like, I want to see what happens. It's like watching Arnold inject all those steroids. You're like, let's see what happens. Let's see. You know what I mean? Like, how big can this guy get? Let's find out.
Yeah. So when we do that one, we notice there's an interest. People are excited. There's a bit of an appetite. So we're like, okay, let's start figuring this out. And we start looking at it from, all the different angles. How can we create? And this is during the bull market in crypto too. So there's a lot of attention on Web3 and metaverses. They're just starting.
And Mark Zuckerberg made that huge move too with like, yeah, perfect.
So people are checking this stuff out. So it's bigger, and we decide, instead of doing like weekly shows, because there's just so much that goes into it, let's do a festival and let's build towards it. Let's understand the ecosystem a little bit better. Let's understand, what we're doing, and kind of really dive in. And so we did a comedy festival called Mic Drop, and it was the first ever comedy festival in the metaverse. We had live shows streaming from New York City. We had what else do we have going on? We had streaming some stand-up specials, podcasts, for all across Canada. We had comics that were doing it.
Wow.
Gilbert Gottfried did set list live over Zoom with like the producers of Setlist, and so they feed him the topic and he'd just go.
Wow.
It was pretty cool. We had Gilbert Gottfried come into the metaverse, and it was his second last show before he passed away. So it's bittersweet to be able to work with him again that way. But hey, that's just a cool comic, like a legend to be part of it. And we had Paul Provenza come in and do a fan Q&A and a screening of the Aristocrats. So we just had all these like different cool elements.
Really, you really gave it like here's all the things you could do with it.
Yeah,
like,
we tried to
here's a Q&A, here's this that you could do with it. That's smart.
Yeah, and we wanted to give people kind of a versatile experience that way. And so that was our first festival, and it went really well. We had a lot of people come out to it, and we were able to I think gain a good reputation in terms of, okay, these guys are the guys that are doing it here. And there's some other companies that were around kind of trying to tap comedy at the time, and they really aren't around anymore. I think there was a lot of the market really did affect people that came into this into the Web3 metaverse market. All the NFTs was, everyone built it on the NFT as like, they do the big capital raise, before they do anything.
Yeah,
It's the opposite. We come in with our own content. My company, Cottage Comedy, we produce a lot of content with a lot of comedians, and we team with them to get them out there. And so we're coming in with 20 years of experience in the business from our end, and like we're not we just didn't come in trying to do a big capital raise at the start. Maybe we should have done that, but the people that relied on that, they're no longer around. Either they took their bag and ran, or they just burnt out, they waited too long. I mean, we created an NFT. But we're still around. You know what I mean? Like NFTs have a bad rap, but I think if you look at what the tech is behind NFTs, the people are still making NFTs. Artists and big record labels, they're still making these things because they're still going to be applicable down the road. The NFT that people think about is as being useless is sort of like a piece of art or whatever, and it's just like you could take a screenshot of that and have the same thing. They don't care that it's on a ledger.
They're only looking at it at face value, right? Which is what they're used to looking at, like money, so it makes a lot of sense that people would view NFTs as like, oh, like that doesn't make any sense. I remember the best example of this was I was sitting at a table and we were all having beers, and my one friend was like, yeah, I just bought a bunch of these, like, I don't know, it was like Magic the Gathering cards or something. And my buddy lost it. He was like, you spent how much on fucking cards? Like, are you stupid? And he goes, this one here is worth like $3,000. Like there's only so many of them made. I could sell it at that. So to him, he sees this scarcity and that there's only one of it, and somebody he knows values it at this. But to the other guy, he's like, it's just a piece of paper. And he goes, what do you think money is? It's just a piece of paper. It's just you put value on it. NFTs is the same thing. It's just digital. It's just digital value.
Collectibles.
Yeah.
But then the ones with utility that you can attach to it, so it's like you could hold a pass to, like, an NFT is like a pass, and get real life perks and get actual, like, access to exclusive content. So you could have you have your Patreon, but you could have an NFT version of the Patreon that gets you access to a metaverse where you can go in and watch all that content, or even bonus content. It's all up to whoever's making the NFT to be creative with it and understand that, like, these are the things that people are going to want. They're going to look for. You can hold an NFT and then they're going to drop you new NFTs. Like we have with ours, you get access to any exclusive event that we do, but you also will get like airdrop wearables, stuff like that. So if you're going around Decentraland, the people that went to Mic Drop this year, we created like our logo is like a skull. So it's like a skull head with like a toque, and you can actually walk around in Decentraland with that as your head.
Ah, that's
cool. So we have a whole bunch of like Decentral Comedy skulls walking around playing poker at the casino. It's it's fun stuff, and people like to trade those things and whatever. But I have a stand-up special that's going to be coming out. We're probably going to be doing some, like a private screening where we can ticket off the area, and people who hold the NFT can come in and watch it before it goes out anywhere else.
It's amazing.
And then they'll get, a special, whatever, like commemorative, like a wearable or whatever.
Yeah.
These are the things that we're able to do for people that hold that. And I think it's kind of cool to experience. We can give them different experiences and look at it like that.
It's a new way to exchange services, which I find absolutely fascinating. Like if you think back to, there's a point in time where we were using like gold coins and shit to, like, you give someone like shillings and then at some point they were like, no, we're just using this paper and it means this, but we're going to use these notes, these bank notes. And everybody probably was like, that's fucking stupid. They're going to rip. They're going to get wet. Like my coins never tear. They don't get wet. I can melt them down and use them. Like, what are you talking about? And I think we're actually going to see like NFTs and all of these Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, whatever one that you want to bet on, all go up, especially considering, not to get heavy, but like the economy is pretty shit, like with America and North America in general, funding proxy wars. But Europe is already trying to create like a Europe digital coin, like an EU digital coin. And as soon as the governments start making crypto, that's when we're in trouble. That means money is done, folks. They want to know
got in late
every
and
transaction. Yeah,
they don't like crypto because they're not making enough money on it. They want to make more, so they're gonna slow it down until they can get their position, and then.
I mean, part of the reason why weed was legalized was because they weren't getting their cut. That's why they had to arrest so many people so that they could get some sort of cut from all the money that was being made, right? And now
the biggest gang in the world, dude,
it's crazy. And I think weed in America made like, it was like $30 billion was spent on it, and then they weighed it against like chocolate, which like 20 billion was spent on. So you're looking at like a difference of $10 billion in sales in this one market in a short amount of time. Like, what is that where is that tax dollars going to? You know what I mean? It ain't going back to us, that's for sure. Like,
yeah.
So that's why these coins and what you're doing, I think, is so important for just like keeping independence alive, you know?
And we didn't really tether ourselves to crypto. We were just kind of adjacent to what's happening in the space, but really this is more about technology and creating engaging interactive experiences for comedy fans and new ways for comedians to get their stuff out there. That's the number one thing. And I mean, ultimately, I think it would be cool to have kind of like a comedy, I guess some sort of like token that where we can use it to protect comedians from things like
you
what
should call it
with...
the exposure coin. We'll pay you an exposure.
yeah, that would be the currency of today. And worth about as much as the crypto is right now. But I think that it would be cool to have some sort of like fund that protects comics from things like what happened to Mike Ward. You know, he had to spend a lot of money fighting the lawsuit.
And he lost, didn't he?
No, he won. He ended up winning.
Oh, okay. I thought he lost and then had to go back again.
Yeah, I think he had to
go
again. Yeah, and then he ended up winning. But most comedians do not have that type of money to fight a kangaroo court free speech tribunal. Human rights tribunal is what he was brought under for making jokes.
That's insane.
About a public figure. And it was just the debate was whether this kid was a public figure or not. The kid who sang for the Pope, and I think he sang for the Pope, and he sang for Celine Dion or whatever, and then they want to pretend he's not a public figure. I mean, whether the joke's in bad taste or not, it doesn't matter.
It shouldn't matter whether or not he's a public figure or not. Like, we make fun of people we know, you know? Like, is my mom going to sue me because I'm making jokes about it? Can she sue me?
It could have just as easily been one of us. And I don't know about you, but I don't have that type of scratch to fight that the way
I'd be like,
to the end.
Lock me up.
I can't do comedy in French too.
Yeah.
A lot of money in that game. But yeah, so like I do think that there's this stuff can be channeled towards good. It just needs to be the right infrastructure needs to be set up and all that. But it takes time, and I am ultimately glad that Decentral Comedy wasn't one of those startups where we just tried to raise a bunch of funds from our community off the hop. Like, we established ourselves before we did anything, and then now because then we knew that we're here to stay. We're not this fly by night company, and the other ones that tried to do that, unfortunately, we saw them burn out, and I think that there's room for other people in this space. Like, I don't see it as we got
taking a do it yourself attitude. That's a good attitude to have, but I think for competition, other people that want to do this, doing what you did in terms of just do it. It's not going to be perfect right away, but do it. because then the only pressure that you have is on yourself to keep making it work, versus if you got a whole bunch of capital for a good idea, now you have these millionaires who are expecting a perfect product, and it might
Yeah,
not
true.
be, you know?
Very true. Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I think a lot of these companies buckle under the weight of that, and the constant demand. I have crypto. I've been in the I follow some of these projects on Telegram and stuff, and the demand of the people that are, holders, whether they hold fucking $10 worth of the token, or 10 million, the way that they demand the people who are running that project to be in constant communication,
It's
and
crazy.
it's very, very um titty sucky. uh,
To
it's
say it
very
plainly.
titty sucky, and
Yeah.
a lot of these fucking dorks. They're whiny little bitches, and we know that they're the fucking little video game kids that you fucking spank online on Fortnite.
Yeah, anyone
But
complaining online is, a little bitch.
it just is what it is, right? But like,
Yeah.
to be in charge of that type of money, I mean, no wonder some of these people collapse.
Oh
The
yeah.
mental health stress that these people probably aren't groomed to be CEOs yet, right?
That's the
So
other scary thing. Yeah, they don't know how to, just because you get lots of capital and you had a good idea doesn't necessarily know you doesn't mean you know how to
yeah,
like project manage something. Like you know how to manage a team of people to get to execute on a task. But if it's like coming from you guys where you have a vision and a passion to get it done, you're going to
mhm,
figure that stuff out. And the benefit is you're going to do it with a smaller team, know how to do more. And then when you finally do hire people, you can properly train them, because you're like, if I can do it, you can do it, you know?
yeah, yeah. I think, and I think like having the small team has been a good way to go through it. There's less, I guess, day to day things that you have to delegate, but in the same end, there has been pressure, and has been put on a small team. When pressure gets put on a small team, it's hard. Like, they think that we're bigger than what
Mm.
we are, and it's, there is those expectations in certain regards, but ultimately it's been, we try and have fun and bring fun things to people, and that's what it's about. Like, the second I'm not having fun at this, fuck it, I'm out.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
I want to do this because it's fun for me. I'm very interested in the tech. I love where it's going, and where it's heading, and what can be, and I like being able to apply my knowledge of comedy as a stand-up and as a producer to this, and getting to, bounce these ideas off of really smart people and seeing what they come up with. It's been fun. Like, we're able to, in Decentraland, if you see the avatars are very cartoony, which is cool
Mm-hmm.
as hell. Like, I mean, I love the look of them, but for us to bring in some, comedians that are known names and stuff like that, I was like, well, we need to, like, be able to create an avatar that's not just, an
I
off the
saw you
rack
doing that. It
avatar.
looks so like, I'm like, we're living in the future. The video
Yes,
of like scanning someone and then making their
yes. So
avatar, I'm like, that's crazy.
we were able to scan comedians and create the avatars using an app that we did. It's called in 3D,
Got it
and
up here.
these guys, they create this app, and we were able to scan like Luis Gomez and all these comics when we were at Skankfest in Las Vegas, and I scanned my own, and so what we do is we have a guy that can actually take the scan, and then he can structure it so that the body moves and works in Decentraland,
Wow.
and you wear it as a skin. So we mint it like a wearable, which is, it's technically an NFT.
So
It's a
there's a
one
bunch
of
of like Tyler Morrisons running around.
no, it's one of one.
Okay, okay,
Because
okay.
it's like a an actual like scan of me. There's all
Yeah.
it's up to like if I wanted to be an asshole and like have a whole bunch of me running around, it'd be kind of wacky. But like
That'd
it's
be a
important,
funny
I think,
ass
for
prank, man.
I think it is important for it to be a one of one so that
Yeah,
like
of
it's
course.
you, right? So when you have your fans in for an event, they know that it's actually you there. So if you had like a fan meet and greet and private screening or whatever, you come in as your avatar, they can take selfies for social media and it's just like a real thing, but it's a virtual way of doing it, the meet and greet. And I think that could be kind of a new cool thing because everyone wants something new and different that they can share on social media,
Yeah.
even if they do it one time.
Nobody
Like the
has a
fans,
virtual avatar with a celebrity
wouldn't that
selfie.
be
You know what I
cool?
mean? That'd be sick.
Like I know they did like Paris Hilton came in and did Decentraland when they did the music festival. I guess it was a couple years ago, and it was a big hit. And in Paris's avatar at the time, they made like a custom one for her, but it wasn't anything like this. Like
Hmm.
not even close to it. You should pull it up in post or something. I don't know if this is live or whatever, but
So this is Paris Hilton at Decentraland. And Tyler was right. It looks very cartoonish still. Couple more shots there. In contrast to the one that we saw earlier, where when you see, I wonder if there's a better close up. Yeah, you can see a good imagery of Tyler's here. Just dropped out. Yeah, you can see that it's a lot more detailed on his face. And exactly what he's wearing as well. You're
hey, sorry,
back.
not
It's
sure what
okay.
happened.
It keeps cutting in and out here. We'll wrap up soon. But I was just showing the difference between the Decentraland Paris Hilton, where it's very cartoonish.
Yeah, like it looks cool. Like that's
It
a
looks
sick
cool.
avatar.
Yeah, you're
Like
like
I
if
like that.
everyone was like if everyone was like the floating torsos and then she came in like this, you'd be like, whoa, that's sick.
Yeah, like I'd bang Paris Hilton's avatar.
but then you have like this way more detailed version where it's like a character from Fortnite.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty spectacular. And so when we when we announced that we were doing these avatars in Decentraland, we got a lot of pushback from people in the community. There's people that were basically calling bullshit on it. That like they're like you're using a third party app. This doesn't work in Decentraland. It's like yeah, it does, motherfucker. So just fucking wait. And so yeah,
Yeah.
now it absolutely does work, and there's video of
Wow.
it, and I took it into Decentraland last week. Um, Actually, yeah, I think it was last week or this week. I went into there's like a little party, and I popped in with the avatar. It's fucking cool, man, and it's just a learning curve for me. Like, I mean, again,
Yeah.
I'm doing all the shit with like a small team and able to learn this stuff, but like for us to bring that in and other people, they don't even believe it. It's like, oh, how far fucking ahead are we? It's
Yeah.
because our project, we're thinking of things that other people haven't, because it
That's how
applies
you know you're
to
onto something, man.
our industry, right?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
always looking at like, well, I mean, Decentraland doesn't have a ton of volume happening right now. Again, we're not in a bull market, and metaverses are kind of cooled off at the moment. I think we'll experience that run again, but as the people are building the new features and tech and stuff, it's just gonna, it's a
Oh
cycle.
yeah.
But for where we're at, if we can position unique things like this into that, I think that's gonna, the individual comedian that comes in to host their content, they have a fan base, and their fan base is willing, hopefully, to try something new if that comedian's pushing it. And
That's
and
all
that's
it'll
sort of
take.
the world that we're trying to set up.
Yeah.
And we have it now that we have a little comedy club we're working with in there where we can stream our content on demand. So instead of, we usually have an event where we have to stream it and you have to show up at a certain time to get that content. Well, now you can go in and watch the content on demand. So now you can go in at
Ah,
your own leisure, because a lot of people accessing Decentraland are all in different time zones. It really is,
true.
it's universal. you can come in at different time zones, and whenever you want, you can go and check, and we would set up playlists, and you can watch, your favorite, podcasts and stuff, or whatever whatever we're
Whatever's on
streaming in
there.
there. Right
Yeah,
now,
yeah.
it's we're starting to build the catalog, the content catalog, but
That's awesome, man.
yeah,
Um,
and
there's
it doesn't
always
happen overnight, but
No, of course not, right? Like, and I feel like you're building the perfect foundation for someone with a massive audience to influence a bunch of people to come over to there. And it's just literally everything that you're doing now is building up for that moment where finally culture is ready for it, you know?
yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
always those early stages that you have to be in on.
I think so, and again, it's just being the person who's on the ground level that understands it, and I'm I have enough friends in comedy that I think people will, when they're ready to, they're going to come to me, hopefully,
Yeah.
and I can help them because I like to do that, and obviously it doesn't hurt to be the person that can help other people.
Yeah, I
It's,
definitely will be hitting you up with all kinds of questions because
yeah,
Mike, this
yeah.
is the
Oh
guy,
man, I just
I'm
think
obsessed with.
it's important that comics understand where it's going, and how
Hmm.
and how to benefit from it. What they can do. We set up a tip jar for people that they can tip comedians using crypto
Oh,
and all that.
wow.
So, but it'll go right to the comedian's wallet. So if you're screening your show, it's kind of like a crypto Patreon or whatever, but
Nice.
just on the live event.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, they can tip if they like it, and it goes right to the wallet. Like there's all kinds of things that you can do. Um, and yeah, I'm always just trying to figure out what's a new way that comedians can benefit from it.
It's a good way of thinking,
Fashion
man.
did a good job. Like fashion gets it because they're selling these digital wearables. So
Ah,
if Nike has a t-shirt or a shoe, they can sell a digital wearable that you can wear as your avatar in Decentraland, but you can buy that and you also get the real shoe sent to you in real life. So it's
that's the
this
move.
merge between real life and
Yeah,
tech that I think that's
yeah.
the utility of
That'll
what
get people.
NFT. Yeah, and people are
That'll
doing
get
that,
people.
and I can see that happening for comics. I definitely see comics eventually. The merch that you sell at your tour. Why wouldn't they sell a wearable or
Yeah.
whatever? Those are cool little perks that people can get, and it's something you can offer in as part of your Patreon tier or whatever it is. Just extra bonus stuff for your fans and new ways for your fans to engage with your content. So
And it doesn't cost you anything like material wise. Like you're not going out and buying, 50 t-shirts and
that's
then
right.
paying someone to print on
You
them and
choose
then
how many you mint. There's the
yeah.
startup cost, which is
Of course,
a
there's gonna be
little
the
there's a
digital
little bit to
cost,
get
but
it
yeah.
made and minted, but ultimately, yeah, if you're someone who moves merch, you can move a lot of those too.
Brilliant, man. There's one question that I always ask my guests towards the end of the podcast, and is if you could make a phone call to 15-year-old Tyler and give him a piece of advice based on what you know now, knowing that it won't affect your current timeline. Very important caveat. So anything that you say to him is just purely off of advice of living your life up until this point. But he's at
Oh,
15.
15. Oh my God. Um, Lay off the booze, buddy. always I always say this that like I love drinking, but I would give up every single one of my comedy drinking kills to get back one of my comedy drinking bombs.
Uh,
That's the advice right out of the gate.
Just take her easy on the Bud Lights.
What you may be making fun of NSYNC now, but there will come a time where you get too drunk and you bomb in front of Joey Fatone, brother.
Oh no. Oh Jesus! I want to hear that story. We got to end on that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we were doing my old podcast, Rude Dudes podcast, and we would record that on Sunday afternoons. And Sunday afternoon, if we're doing Rude Dudes, we're in studio and we are we're giving it hard. The second we get in there, beers are going, and sometimes it runs an hour and a half, and we're just slamming them.
Yeah.
And usually we just continue on, but because it's like O'Donnell's in town, I'm in town, and Jarrett Campbell, he was lived in the city, so he's kind of the central point. People know we're in town. They're like hitting us up to do their mics and all that. So next thing you know, we're going and doing a mic, but we're pretty buckled at this point. And we get to the mic, and it's a shithole. I don't even remember what club it was in. It wasn't a club. It was like at a bar, but there's hardly anyone there. But Joey Fatone is there because he's in town shooting My Big Fat Greek Wedding 2. I think it was the second one, and he's there. And the chick who played Robin Swallows from Austin Powers, and they're all there hanging out. They're just super nice people, and everyone's drinking together basically, and then we just get up and do comedy, and it's a train wreck because we've been slamming
Plastered.
But like I'm at the point, like I'm probably late in the night, I would imagine later in the night when I get on, and I just start forgetting my fucking jokes on stage. Just there's nothing glorious about it. You know what I mean? Like just
yeah.
You're in the headlights, like train wreck drunk. Those are the worst moments in the world.
You're holding the beer going, what's next?
Fortunately it's everyone else that gets to remember them. If you're blackout, you're not the guy that has to remember. You just have, but there is that sinking feeling of shame at some point. You always know, like when you die, when I die, am I gonna see all of my blackout,
all of your blackout moments
flashback and realize, oh fuck, what was I doing with Bill Cosby?
Hell yeah. Everyone watching, go check out Tyler Morrison on YouTube, at Tyler Morrison 123 on Instagram. It's at Decentral Comedy as well. Go check out that for more Metaverse stuff. And Cottage Comedy is the comedy label where you've got a ton of incredible comedians on your label putting out great albums. I had John Mostyn on recently.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for making the time. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, buddy.
Yeah, definitely. We'll do it again. Everybody watching, Don't forget to rate, like, subscribe, do all the things. But until next time, take her easy.
You've been listening to The Johnny Rogers Show. New episodes air every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.